4th of July celebrations yesterday and last night in Boston, and a reason to celebrate for Red Sox fans as they won the first game of a series against the Rays 4-0 behind a strong performance from Cutter Crawford and a 2-run homer from Trevor Story. And now they're filing into the ballpark for Game 2 of this series. It's the MLB on TBS Tuesday night presentation of the Rays and the Red Sox. Chasing the Yankees might not be realistic. Red Sox 13 back. The Rays 15 back of the Yanks. But with 3 wild cards, if the season were to end today, all 3 American League wild cards would come out of the American League East. With Ron Darling, I'm Bob Costas. Couple of notes about the Red Sox lineup. Alex Verdugo on a 14-game hitting streak on the bench. Nothing wrong with him. Available to pinch hit. Same is true of Rafael Devers, who rarely takes a night off, but he will not be in the starting lineup tonight. Nick Pivetta, however, will be on the mound, and after a slow start, he has been on fire over his last 10 or 11 outings.
Well, they might be able to withstand the losses to the lineup because Nick Pivetta has really been their workhorse. They've got 5 different starting pitchers on the IL, including the great Chris Sale, but Pivetta has been unbelievable, especially with probably one of the greatest curveballs in the game. The key, though, in talking to Alex Cora before the game today, is that he's going to have to hit with his fastball. Since he's been aggressive with that pitch, it's opened the lane for that curveball, and he's going to have to be at his best against Isaac Paredes. From Hermosillo, Mexico, the infielder coming over from the Detroit Tigers in the Austin Meadows trade, has been the most consistent offensive performer since being called to the major leagues. 13 home runs and 129 at-bats. They really have been struggling with their offense all season long. The Tampa Bay Rays, Paredes has been their savior.
The Rays will send Jeffrey Springs, left-hander, as we take a look at some of the comparative stats for Isaac Paredes. They will send Jeffrey Springs, left-hander, to the mound, and when we come back, Ali LaForce will join us with more on Springs and some other notes on the Tampa Bay Rays. We're not far removed from the lineups and the first pitch from Fenway. Overcast in Boston. A few raindrops earlier today and the possibility of some rain later this evening in the forecast. 71 degrees as game time approaches. Down on the field, Ali LaForce joins us now. Hi, Ali.
Hey there, Bob. Well, Tampa's going to send Jeffrey Springs to the mound. Remember, he missed his last start because what the team called a family medical emergency. We spoke with manager Cash, and he said that he unfortunately dealt with a tragic situation with his 5-month-old son. His son is still in the hospital. The family is getting through it, but he's going to make the start tonight and rejoin his family after this game. Now, remember, he moved from the bullpen into the Rays' starting rotation early in May. He was doing really well out of the pen with 8 scoreless appearances before he was positioned as a starter. He's been great ever since with a 2.25 ERA in his 10 starts. To find the last time that Springs started on a regular basis, you have to go back to 2017 during his time in High A with the Texas Rangers. But this team has really benefited from him in this transition, and they could use a solid 6 because their bullpen has thrown the most innings in the majors this season. Good news, Brooks Raley and Ryan Thompson are reinstated. The challenge, though, is the Boston bats are hot. They're great against lefties, but they won't have to face Alex Verdugo, as the guys mentioned, or Rafael Devers, who's getting a day of rest after playing in 78 of the last 80. First pitch coming your way after the break.
MLB on TBS Tuesdays is brought to you by Geico. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. And by Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Activity outside Fenway, just about ready to start inside. Nick Pivetta will take the ball for the Red Sox. His record is 8-5 for the year, but very misleading. Over his last 11 starts, he's gone 8-1 with an ERA under 2. Let's take a look at the lineup he'll face. A year ago, the Rays averaged 5.3 runs per game, behind only the Astros, second overall in the major leagues. This year, that figure is down to just over 4 runs a game, down more than a run per game, ranking 26th out of 30 big league teams. Now, the absence of Brandon Lau is a big reason for that. Austin Meadows is gone in a trade. Manuel Margot was hitting over 300 before he got injured and landed on the IL, so that explains part of it. They're pitching both their starters, and of course they use their starters differently than most teams, and their bullpen, and they have the greatest bullpen usage in the majors, but the combination, be it starters or relievers, has been very effective, and that's kept them in games even when they've struggled to score.
They have. Their ERA is one of the best in the league. But we saw a picture there of Wander Franco, who's supposed to be one of the greatest young players in the game. He has really struggled, especially from the left side.
There's Kevin Cash in his 8th season as the manager of the Rays. The only longest tenure with the current team around the major leagues is Terry Francona, who's been with the Guardians, formerly the Indians, for 10 years now. And here's Pivetta.
Well, Pivetta, as I described in the open, has been their workhorse with all the injuries to their starting rotation. Number 1 in games started. This will be his 17th innings pitched and wins. Bob talked about the numbers, his last 11 starts, but his best start in the major leagues came a little over a year ago against the Tampa Bay Rays when he no-hit him for 6 2/3 innings.
Here's the defense behind him. Christian Arroyo is at third base. Rafael Devers with a night off, as we mentioned earlier, available off the bench. Bobby Dahlbeck at first base. They have not gotten a good deal of production from their various first basemen this year. Middle of the infield remains the same, Bogarts and Story. And this is not the usual outfield. Kike Hernandez is on the injured list. Jackie Bradley Jr., excellent with the glove. Not that much of a factor with the bat. He's on the bench tonight. And with Alex Verdugo getting the night off, Rob Refsnyder is in left field.
It's the Worcester Red Sox outfield for the Boston Red Sox tonight.
Mark Rippiger is behind the plate. Shane Livensparger at first. Jim Reynolds is the crew chief. And Phil Cuzzi, there he is, had the plate yesterday afternoon as the Red Sox beat the Rays 4-0. And Phil Cuzzi calls the plays at third tonight. Yandy Diaz steps in at 283.